Okay, in dealing with decimals, put your calculators on the desk because you're going to use them. Well, we're going to go over some rules to make this a whole lot easier on you. See this first problem? Is this problem a little similar to what was on the worksheet?
Yes.
Was it hard to solve?
No.
Yes.
Okay, let's talk about it. Which number is larger?
The 23.2.
When I say that, the negative or the positive? Which number is physically bigger? Ignore the negatives.
37.
Yes. Okay, so if this is a positive and this is a negative, we know this one's negative, right? Negative.
Can I write it on the
Hector, do what I asked. Right there on the sheet. No, I want it on that sheet. We're not going to write a whole lot today, so I want to get through the do now and have you guys finish the worksheet today. Okay, so we know the answer is going to be negative, right? So take in your calculator, 23.2 and subtract 37.9.
23.2. Subtracted by what? 37.9
Yes,
equals negative 14.7.
right. You're not worried about the negative, okay? Because once again, we know which number is larger here, okay? So our answer is negative 14.7, okay? So, hang on. Positive, negative, we know it's going to be negative. All we're going to do is subtract them. Reason why we're subtracting it is because that symbol right there. Okay? Any questions?
No.
We're good?
Wait, can you go through that one more time?
Yes. We're just going to subtract these two numbers, okay? We know it's going to be negative because the negative number is larger. Now, is it? Technically, this number's bigger. But you don't think that way. Just look at it and say, what number's bigger? Larger one retains the symbol. Okay?
There's no moving the decimal at all.
Nope. Because you use your calculator to do the work. Okay? And you can use a calculator on an AC mirror. So we're not going to sit there and stack these on top of each other and borrow from them, so we don't need to do any of that. Okay?
And you know it's subtraction because the 37 is bigger?
Yes, correct. Now, if this one was negative, we would just be adding them together. That they're both negative. Okay? All right, let's look at the next one. This is the actual problem. Okay? This is saying 3.7, negative 3.7 plus x. Then x is 7.1, negative 7.1. So what we're going to do is we're going to write negative 3.7 plus stop. Okay? Now, see how this is negative? Anytime a number that we're inserting is negative, we're going to write in parentheses. Negative 7.1. Mr. Peters, I don't get this. There's nothing to get. I'm literally telling you what to do, right? Okay, from here, we actually have distributive property, all right? Which means we have parentheses, and we need to multiply these. Now, the good thing is we don't have any math here. What happens is, what is a negative times a positive?
A negative.
A negative. So all it's doing is getting rid of this symbol, okay? So we're going to rewrite this, but this is the proper way to write this out. So we're going to take 3.7 minus 7.1. Okay? Now they're both negative, right? If both of your answers are negative, I want you to write negative. It has to be negative. Now take your calculator and add them together. Tell me what it is.
So I put negative. How do I put negative 3 in?
Okay, you're not listening to me. You're not listening to me. You don't need to worry about putting negatives in the calculator. I'm telling you the answer.
Okay.
I'm telling you how to solve them. So you don't ever run into that issue.
Sorry. No, I
Add
got
them
you.
together, Wolf.
I got you.
Okay, what is it?
Negative 3.3.
Mm-hmm.
Where you add them? Okay. I subtract.
And that's why. That's why I tell you these things. So you don't get confused. This is, I borrowed $3.70. I borrowed $7.10. How much do I owe?
$10.80.
Yeah, because you're adding them together. If it's two negatives. But our brain confuses us. Our brain sees that. We don't really see this and we try to subtract. Okay? That's where students get into trouble. Okay? Any questions on this?
Nope.
So C would just be 14 minus negative 10.
Well, but that 14 is positive, right? So we're going to take 14 minus. Now remember, anytime we have a negative, we enter parentheses. So parentheses, negative 21 equals. Okay? Now we can solve it.
And so you just put the parentheses because you don't want it to be two negative signs.
Not necessarily. What happens is when you have a negative, you use parentheses because we got to deal with these negatives. You will never see this properly in math. There's no such thing.
Okay.
No such thing. Okay? So what happens is, same thing here, we have this positive times this negative. We have this negative times this positive, which is what? Or, I'm sorry, this negative times this negative.
It's a positive.
Right. So we're going to write 14 plus 21, which is what?
But the 14 is a negative.
Correct, it's
Is
positive.
it positive?
But this is a negative times a negative turns this positive. Okay? Now, let's talk about that for a minute. So if we're doing this on a number line, we would start at 14, right? Negative, negative, it's going to force it this way, positive. Okay, so we're going to go to 14. We're going to add 21. We're going to end up at 35. And that's why you guys do number lines. Same thing you're doing down here. Yes? No, not during the lecture. And the first 40 minutes you're stuck in class. Yeah, same thing as last semester. Okay, any questions on this one?
How do you get a negative, a positive and a negative equals a positive?
Because this is parentheses, right? Remember the rule, what I'm telling you. Anytime your number is negative, you're going to put it in parentheses. Okay? So if this number was not negative, we would just put this in here. Okay? But this number's negative, so we're putting in parentheses. This number's negative, we're putting in the parentheses. What is a negative times a negative?
Positive.
Positive.
That's a negative of 14?
Yeah, see, minus 14, but it's subtraction. But if we have a minus next to it, it's minus minus. Put your phone in your bag, please. We'll wait for you.
That's right.
Yes.
On D, is that a J or a Y? Y.
Why?
Well, what's that little thing that's 2.7? That's just.
Oh, it's symbol. I'll explain that. We'll get there in a second. So notice this right here. It's a semicolon. So typically in problems,
What is it, sir?
semicolon.
Okay.
So typically it's saying, given this information, this is the problem, but x is equal to this. So then you have to substitute this information in to solve for it. And that's what it means.
Oh.
Same thing here, same thing here. Okay? Okay, so tell me the rules. When is it supposed to go in parentheses?
When a negative?
Yes, when it's a negative. So then your distributive property, negative, negative, turns it positive. So 14 plus 21 is 35. Let's go to the next one. So this is our problem, right? Hector, you. If I'm in a lecture, sit there and do nothing, okay? Y minus 37, okay? That's our problem, but y is 1. So we're going to rewrite this. 1. Now, do we need to put that in parentheses?
No.
No, because it's not a negative, right?
Yeah.
By the way, if it's the first number, we don't put it in parentheses. Because it would be negative, right? There would be no reason to put those parentheses. There's nothing to multiply it against. Okay? So 1 minus 3.7. Well, can we do this in our head?
Why did you put
Yes.
We don't need to because there's no negative, and it's the first number. Anytime it's the first number, we don't have to put it in parentheses because there's nothing to multiply it against. So if this were negative 1, it would look like this. Negative 1, negative 3.7. Okay? If it's the first number, we don't enter it. Now, is this going to matter? It's going to matter when we go do ordered pairs, and we're subtracting and finding rise and runs. We're following the same exact rules. Okay? So what's 3 minus 1? Wolf, your time to shine. What's 3 minus 1? 3 minus 1.
2.
Amazing. Yeah, just the answer is 2. Negative 2.7, right? Because we're just subtracting 1 from here. So this one's really easy. What's larger, the 3 or the 1?
1, 3.
The 3. So we know it's going to be negative. So all we're doing is subtracting 1 from 3. Our answer is negative 2.7. Now, let me explain something. Our brain plays tricks on us, right? That's why we follow steps. Any questions on these 4 so far?
How many got the negative sign if that was a minus? The Y.
Okay, you showed me something you're challenging with, which is awesome. That means you might not struggle with this again. Whether it's minus or it's subtraction, it's the same exact thing. Let me explain why.
Well, the negative.
If you have minus $5, means you owe someone $5, right? It's the same thing as subtracting $5. Same exact thing. Don't get confused. A minus and subtraction, or a negative sign and subtraction, are the same exact thing. Okay?
What is, sir? For A, you
Oh,
want
yeah,
to show your
like
work
the
for
number
A?
line.
Yes, and that's why we do number lines. Tells us what direction. Negatives go what direction?
Left.
Positives go what direction?
Left.
Very good. How do we start? How do we, if we're gonna put this on the number line, what do I start with? Where do I start?
Positive 1.
Yeah, positive 1, and then what direction am I going?
Right. 5. I mean, to the left.
Yes, to the left. Yes, 3, 5. Okay. Any questions? Pretty easy, right? Why aren't you paying attention? Okay, let's talk about this. I actually have an actual scenario for this. What this saying is record temperature of Phoenix is 124, the low is negative 15. So I deal with this with my daughter all the time because she goes to school in Denver, 16. Have I told you this story? Yeah.
Denver.
What's that?
Isn't she like a sophomore in college?
She's 16, she's finished her first year already.
So she's
Yeah.
smart though.
Yes, she's super smart. She works hard.
Like really smart.
Yes, very smart.
Oh my God.
She was taking college classes and graduated high school at the same time. She graduated high school 2.5 years.
She went into high
What
school.
grade
she's
did she
already
grad?
taken, like,
God
18
damn.
classes.
What grade did
Yes.
she graduate?
Yeah, so she graduated with a 4.7, when a 4 is the highest you can get, because the AP classes add more points because they're harder. Pretty impressive,
Smarter
right?
than you.
Okay, so anyway, back to the example. So she's no longer in Phoenix, she's in Denver, okay? Well, what happens in Denver that doesn't happen here?
I don't know.
It snows.
I know, I haven't been
Snows.
there.
Yeah,
Oh,
so she tells me, she says it's really cold today. And I asked her, what's the temperature? And she goes 14 degrees. And I said, okay, is that negative or positive? She goes, oh, right, it's negative.
oh, right.
Why did I ask her?
Because it's way below.
It's a huge difference. What degrees does water freeze?
Below.
Roughly 7 to 8 degrees below. 7 to 8 degrees below 0 it freezes. Okay? So 14 degrees is the difference between water freezing versus negative 14, right? So negative 14 and positive 14, that's a swing of 28 degrees. 28 degrees is huge. If you're here during the summer and it's 120 degrees, you could go up north and have it 20 degrees less, 20, 25 degrees. Is that a nicer temperature to be in? Absolutely is. Absolutely is. You're talking about excessive heat warning versus something you can actually go outside. You know what? Just do it. Just do it. I don't have time for this. Go, leave. Leave. I'm lecturing. You're being so disrespectful. Sit there and do nothing like you normally do. Okay? I actually want you to pass a class and you won't even try. God, it's ridiculous. You know what? Because I'm done. This is what he does all the time. It's so ridiculous. Okay, so temperature. Have you guys ever seen that analog temperature guide?
Yeah, the one that drops and goes.
What's in the middle of it?
Mercury.
Mercury. The liquid. By the way, if you ever break one, don't touch it. You will get
What? Break
massively
what?
sick. But most of the time, they don't put mercury in them anymore.
Break
Mercury is the silver liquid.
Mercury is the Cheetos.
No, it's not.
Okay. So anyway, they used to put mercury in thermostats, and what happens is, in those, they rise as the temperature rises, okay? So, if we have degrees, and we're 124, okay? 124 degrees, then we're 0, and then we're negative 15. Remember on the number line? It's going from 0 down to negative 15. So this question, just like in your worksheets, asking the difference. It's not asking you to subtract. It's saying, what is the difference between negative 15 to 124? So how are we going to solve this?
124 minus 15.
What's that?
There's no minus, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
We are not subtracting. We're adding.
Why?
Because we're 124 to negative 15. Remember, we still have to deal with this temperature in here. Okay? So we're going to take 124 and we're going to add it to 15, and that's going to be our answer.
Why?
Because we're starting from 15, 14, 13, so on. There's value here, right? These are still degrees in temperature. And if it's asking the difference, it's not asking the difference as in subtract. It's saying, what is the range between this negative 15 and this 124 degrees? Okay? So that is just like your word problem that's on your worksheet. Okay? So we're going
It's
to...
just worded differently.
Yes, yes. And how we know, the only way that we know, if something has temperature, we know there's a value of 0. Let me tell you another one. Sea level. What's sea level?
Below 10 degrees.
No. Sea level 0. Everything below is where water is. Let me give you an example. So our elevation is low here, right? So if you dig down into the ground, you will get to... Stop. You dig down into the ground, you're going to get to where water is. And that's why Arizona, clear on the boonies and stuff, there's a lot of people are on wells. That's where they get their water from. They dig down in the ground and they have a pump that pulls the water from the ground.
Abel, why is it when you like go to Lakes and go to the
Okay, stay with me.
You're talking about.
No, we're not talking. Good. Okay, so, like we're going to get to examples to talk about buildings. And it has a garage underneath the garage. Or the garage underneath the ground, right? You drive down and you go down and park, and then you go up to the 14th floor. And I might ask you, well, if there's 7 levels in the garage, and there's 15 levels, how many levels did you go up? How far did the elevator go up? You have to remember, ground level starts at 0. So you have questions that are like this. Temperature, ground, so on. Covers this. Why is this important? We get to graphing, right? 0. 0, and everything negative is below. Okay? So, we just add these together, right? So 5, 9, 3, 139. That's the difference in the temperature between 124 and negative 15. That's how much it's moving between these two. And like I gave you the example with my daughter, negative 14 and 14, there's a big difference. Because she needs to drive someplace, what am I going to tell her? Negative 14 is going to be black ice. It's going to be so slick, you're going to lose traction. You're not going to make any traction in your car. Bad idea.
So you can drive?
She has a Mini Cooper, so that wouldn't be,
It freezes up when
it wouldn't be a good idea.
What's your car? All-wheel drive?
Stay focused. Stay focused. It's not important.
Man, I'm just asking.
Okay, next thing. Now, this is where negatives are important, okay? Think about this question for a minute. You have $217.63 in your account, okay? And you write a check for $245. What just happened?
You can't because you broke.
Very good, but what if you did?
You can't. Then it's
When you
like-
say you can't, explain that.
Can or can't? It's how much.
Whatever,
You can't because you're broke.
okay? Right, you don't have the money to clear that check, right?
Yeah.
And typically if you do that, they can process you for a misdemeanor for writing a bad check, right? But let's say you just made a mistake. You thought you had more money, something cleared, you totally forgot about it. Well, what the bank does, and we're gonna solve this.
Is they don't care.
You're right, they don't
They
care.
borrow
But this is typically what they do. If you don't have overdraft protection, they don't pay it. They send it back to the merchant, whoever you spent the money at, and they said, we're not gonna honor this. Then the merchant comes after you for it. Now on top of it, they don't pay it, right? Now they charge you $35 on top of it. Even if it was a cent, 4 cents difference, they're going to charge you that money. That's what the going rate for a bounce check is. Bounce means it came back, it was sent back to who you wrote it to. That's why it's important, okay? So if we have a problem like this, the way we're going to write this is $217.63 minus $245. So I have a question. Is my answer positive or negative?
Negative.
It's negative, yes. So we're going to subtract these. Put them in your calculator, please. Tell me the answer.
Negative.
It's negative 27.37.
Yes, that's correct, Wolf.
Yes.
So if they wrote this check, it would be negative by, right. That's if the bank honored it. Then on top of it, it actually, realistic situation, there'd be $33 to $35 on top of it.
When you get paid, that gets taken out.
Yeah, or if they have a savings account to hit, or if you have a credit card linked to it, their banks get paid. They're not gonna not get paid. Okay, let's talk about these. These are very similar to the very ones on the end of your worksheet. The problem is 7 minus r, okay? So this is just like this and having the colon and then telling us what r is, okay? So we're going to talk about these problems individually. So we're 7 minus, so we're going to write that, 7 minus. Now, if r is negative 11, how am I going to write this?
No,
Very good, parentheses. Now what happens here?
turn into a positive.
Yes, 7 plus 11. What's our answer?
17.
Yes, good. Okay, now we have a decimal situation, okay? So we're 7 minus 7.32. Okay, now I want to show you something here. That's 7 minus 7, right?
Yeah.
Isn't that 0? Okay, which number's larger, the positive or the negative?
They're both the same, right?
Well, except for this right here, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so what happens here, if you're positive, negative, all right, this is just going to be negative 32. We don't actually have any math to do because these cancel each other out.
Where'd you get the, R?
Sorry, thank you. Where'd I get the what? This is said in the problem. So look at the very bottom of your worksheet from your notes. Flip your notes over from Monday. If you don't have it, let me know. I'll hand it to you. So if you flip this over and you go to the very bottom, aren't those very, very similar?
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
What is that, sir?
So you're going to rewrite those problems and it's going to tell you what n is and you're going to solve for it. Does anyone else need it?
Yeah.
So 18 would be n?
Thank you.
18 is never going to change. So every single problem is going to be 18 minus. So then let's do 21 together. Write 18 minus on 21.
I know, right? I asked you to write 18 minus. That sucks.
Write that. That's not going to change on any of those problems. Then it's going to tell you what it's equal to. So notice, when I did this one, it was 7 minus 7 minus. So what's this one going to be? 7 minus. Same thing on here. It's going to be 18 minus, and then whatever n is, you're going to write. Now I have a question. What do you do if the number's negative?
So you're saying R is 7?
On this one, no, I'm not necessarily saying that. I'm saying this is what the problem is. Whatever r is, I'm doing something with 7 to it. So just like here, it's 18 minus. 18 minus is never going to change. It's going to be the same on all three problems.
So the variable for that one is 7?
No, the variables are, but you're close. Because this isn't going to change. Look, that's the same, that's the same, that's the same. Those are constants. Constant is something.
That's the same. That's the
I thought that's what you meant. That's why I threw it out there. Okay, so on these, you're going to be 18 minus. So how are you going to write the negative 13 in there? How are you going to write the negative 13 for the end? Remember, it's negative.
Oh, right.
Very good. Yeah, so this one's going to be, it's going to be 18 minus n, right? And your n was negative 18. So you're going to write 18 minus 13, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, negative, negative, what happens?
Positive.
Yeah. What's your answer? Solve it, okay?
22.
Okay, that gives you help with solving that. We talked about the temperature one, we talked about the balance one. Okay, what about this one right here? This one's a little bit similar to this one right here. If we're 7 minus 7.5, what's my answer? Are we able to see it pretty easily?
Yeah, it's just a half, right?
Negative. A half, that's it. Yep, very good. That's it. Now, guess what? You don't have to cry on the worksheet anymore. You have all the information you need. Now, is there any on the worksheet we need to go through that were a struggle?
One.
Number 1?
Yeah, put
Okay.
it on the timeline or whatever.
The number line.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have, I'm going to put it right here. 1. Okay? We're negative 6 plus negative 8. Now I want you to notice something. You notice that negative 8? What did they do with it?
Put it.
In parentheses.
Yeah, they put it in parentheses. What rules did I tell you to start with the number line? Where do we start at?
Left.
Where do I start at? What type of 6?
Negative.
Very good. So on our number line, we're going to be negative 6. So you see where this is going? Okay, we're negative 6. What direction am I going to go?
Go left.
Right. How many times?
8 times.
Yes. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Right? That's how many spots I'm going to have. So I'm going to go add these. So this is negative 7, negative 8, negative 9, negative 10, negative 11, negative 12, negative 13. What's my answer?
14, negative 14.
Got it?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Oh, that's not what it is.
Yes, it is.
Oh, I'm so mad.
Now, can I show you a simple way to solve it?
That's
If you're negative and you're negative, aren't you adding these together?
Yeah.
Yes, you're adding them together, they're staying negative. Okay? So let's talk about the do now. Number lines do the same thing. Number lines do the same thing. Don't get confused by the decimals. Let the calculator do the work. By the way, if you're 0.5, where's that on a number line?
0.5?
Uh-huh.
Positive 5. 1 and... Oh, no. Oh, yeah.